Hey, welcome to Modern Leadership Monday. I'm here with Charlie DeMarco. I am interviewing him for several reasons. One is I'm highly impressed with just the way that he leads his people, how deeply he listens, and how much he really wants to make the world a better place by being a conscious leader. Charlie, welcome. I know you're a senior technology leader at Cisco. I know you have former experience at Morphus Data, and you were working in the VP of Customer Success. So I know you've been in leadership, and just knowing you personally, you've always been someone that people have looked up to. You've always inspired people. And I think that's really why I wanted you to be with us today and share your thoughts about, what do you think the world needs more of in terms of leadership? We'd love to hear from you.
Nina, thank you. That's very kind, and I hope to honor the time and all the folks that are listening. So how should we begin?
I'm thinking we could start with what you think the world needs more of today as it relates to leadership.
An awareness of the, people are in developmental process, and people spend more time at work than just about anywhere else as adults. So much of our experience of what life is does happen at work, and work can be, a refuge. I think as leaders, one of the things I try to remember is that, we're stewards not only of business results, but also the fact that we work with amazing people. And it's not just about the business results. It's also about what is that experience like for the people that we support, and how can we make that process of work as positive as possible. Back to that point that people spend a lot of time at work, and sometimes that's a huge portion of how they experience life. So stewarding that and being thoughtful about that, trying to be aware that people bring their whole selves to work. So how do we honor that is something I try to think about.
So the best leaders realize that they're sort of moderators of this experience, right? And they're conscious of the fact that their employees are having this experience. I know people are working more and harder now than ever before, since we have many workers being virtual. And I think when we spoke last time, you had said something like, you don't see that changing anytime soon, that there will still be a very strong need for virtual workers. How can we support, our own stress as well as the stress of those that are around us? Because I think one thing you said, we could be more perceptive of the fact that everyone's in a developmental phase.
Yeah, I think it starts with an awareness of yourself. I try to use my own sense of what I'm experiencing as a barometer and an indicator that, if I'm feeling a bit isolated as a leader, what's it like for the team? And what can I do to make that a little bit better? We as people were communal. And one of the things I used to love about going into the office was connecting with the team and just having little points of connection, little human moments throughout the workday that now we struggle to create over video. I think we have to be a bit more direct about that. The team is asking me now, for example, what are we going to do for the holidays? And there's this bit of a culture where we get together informally as people and celebrate a little bit, either the year or just the fact that, we work together and enjoy that and have a positive send off through the holidays. So what does that look like now? And I think it's trying to realize that we should create those spaces to connect. And that's a part of us building trust and going faster. And I think there are a ton of research out there that shows that when you can recognize that human component, make space for it, we build trust faster, we all have more fun, and we execute as a team more effectively. So I think it's not just the right thing to do from a business perspective, it's also great to do from a human perspective.
So what you're creating now are virtual experiences for people to remember that they are connected to a greater community and working within your organization, and that you're maybe looking for ways to support that connection with them. But getting back to what you had said about honoring humanity, and we are in such a diverse world. I mean, we have different customs, we have different, obviously with the holidays, we have a new year coming up. How do you think we might be more vulnerable in our leadership and more relational in our leadership while we're still really having that pressure, that financial pressure, fourth quarter, 2021, what's to be expected of us this year? How can we as leaders paint a really strong vision for the outcomes that we're wanting, and also keep our hand on our hearts and be that, like you said, that compassionate leader, knowing that everybody's a work in process, including ourselves.
Yeah. To answer your question, I'd love to try to identify a couple, but I think it's back to, it starts with a bit of awareness and trying to do both. I don't want to over rotate to the point where hey, everybody, let's talk about it more than we need to. But I think it's as much as possible and in a balanced way, recognizing that the pressure from a business perspective is very real to execute virtually. Everybody's trying to figure out that we don't have much of a precedence. And so we're really pioneering together. I think being aware of that, addressing that openly is a great start. And so if I were to lock in on a tangible, it's address the fact that we're a bit more isolated. The business pressure is still there in terms of execution. The requirements are still there. And then how do we connect and achieve together, even though we're so remote from one another? So some of the things, the connection points that used to happen, to make that, you just walk through the halls and bump into some folks and you get 3 or 4 conversations nudging an opportunity along or supporting a customer in a certain way. Could happen very quickly. You got to be a bit more direct about some of that. And yet I also believe that we're going to evolve out of this with a different experience from a quality of life that may be a surprise silver lining for everyone.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, the quality of life thing is real for the team. There are several folks who are sinking into, not being on the road as much and recognizing that there's a more meaningful experience as they connect with family, but then also execute very well and take care of work in a great way. But also they're not running around from meeting to meeting, and they can be available for more interaction with customers as long as the customers are okay with it, especially if we can all build trust and move forward.
I love that. Any old paradigms that you think are going to get in our way as we continue to pioneer this together, as you mentioned?
Oh, that's an easy one. There's a open-handed trust that's required for remote work, I think, is a challenge for traditional leadership. If you can see folks, that must mean that they're executing. And I think that myth has been dissolved, hopefully forever, because I think we're finding new ways to metric impact and execution. And that's a great thing. I think it's going to open up new levels of autonomy and new freedom in the workspace.
Ooh, I love that. How do we metric impact? I love it. How many meaningful conversations as a salesperson can you have versus how many conversations did you have? How long were they? Right?
Exactly. That's a great example.
Any bold predictions for modern leadership in the future?
Ooh, I like it. Bold prediction. Something that we've talked about is I was wondering, should I wear a jacket?
Yeah. Or my cat's jumping on the desk.
I know. We're going to hang out. We're forced to be more human and have that be okay. And I think that brings a level of invitation for authenticity. The blending of work and life is here more than ever. I mean, we've got people on my team that are navigating homeschool because they have to right now, and they have to check in on their 10-year-old as they're, may or may not be skipping classes to play video games. And so they gotta, there's a whole level of what does it mean to do work and do life? And that's integrated more than it ever has been. So I predict that many will not want to let that go. And the new workspace is going to be one where we embrace that, celebrate it, and figure out a way to make that even more productive and vital.
No, I love that. Like you're talking about being human and realizing that we're all in development. So these are the clothes I choose to wear as a leader, and versus what's my impact, right? You talked about that too, in terms of is that the environment or the culture that we want to create? That's fantastic.
Right. My wife's an executive, and she works from her slippers sometimes, and that's, I think, the new reality.
Charlie, thank you so much. I'm so glad you are here today. I knew that you would give us these nuggets of wisdom, and you completely delivered. So thank you. I always love talking to you. If anybody has any questions about you, how could they get a hold of you?
charliedemarco@gmail.com. I think that would probably be a great way to go.
Sounds good. All right, Charlie, thanks again, and bye, everybody.
Thanks for the time, everyone.